All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon to you all. And welcome to our virtual lunch and learn today, focused on understanding the value of a modern data stack. I'm Jesse McCabe. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Fivetran, and I'm excited to be joined by Kelly, who's from one of our partners, Hashmap, for our lunch and learn session today. Kelly, I'm kicking over to you to maybe introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone, Kelly Kohlleffel with Hashmap. Appreciate it, Jesse. I look after really the business development side for Hashmap. Been in the data space for a long time, so looking forward to talking to everybody today. Hope you're having a great lunch provided by Fivetran, and looking forward to talking some data with you.
Awesome, yes, thank you, and thanks for the call out on lunch. Hope everyone is enjoying that. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to move into our agenda. For the agenda today, I'm going to kick things off and discuss some challenges that our customers are seeing around legacy data architectures. From there, we will move into discussing what is the modern data stack and how does Fivetran help enable adoption of this modern data stack. Next, I will turn it over to Kelly then, who will give you the Hashmap perspective on the modern data stack and provide some great examples around business outcomes that some of his clients have achieved as a result of taking this approach and adopting a modern data stack. We would love for this also to be interactive, so please feel free to submit any questions that you might have via the chat functionality on your screen. I see many of you have found that given the location that you are dialing in from, so please continue to leverage that for questions and answers. Kelly and I will include these questions as we go along and try to provide opportunities for the other to respond to some of those. And at the end, assuming that there's some time, we would love to have you all join us in one of two breakout sessions, one for me and one for Kelly. Maybe we'll do a little competition to see who gets the most attendance there between Kelly and myself. And during those breakout sessions, you can obviously ask any questions that you might have specifically for Fivetran or for Hashmap or for anything else. So Kelly, I think if you're ready, I think we're ready to get started.
Let's
all
roll.
Right. So to kick things off then, here is some data from a survey that we at Fivetran helped to commission that was targeted at identifying some of the challenges that companies and in particular data engineers are facing. So some of the most interesting results include the fact that 98% of companies indicated that their data pipelines break frequently and typically monthly from those respondents. And then 20% even indicated that they break weekly. 68% of data engineers don't have enough time to extract value from data, likely because they're spending time fixing some of those broken data pipelines. 44% of companies indicated that key data is not yet usable for decision making. And then as a result of all this, almost 60% of companies reported delayed decisions or lost opportunities based on those broken pipelines. So net, right, data pipeline related issues are really limiting a company's ability to make decisions that could have revenue generating implications or cost cutting implications for their business. So question for the audience here, and feel free to leverage then the chat functionality. Do these questions align and these challenges here, do they align with some of the challenges that you are seeing within your organization? And then Kelly, maybe a question for you as the audience chimes in. From your perspective, do you hear similar challenges from some of your clients?
Yeah, Jesse, I think for us, it goes back to the very start of those data pipelines, data silos. We had done a LinkedIn poll, a few months ago. What is that top challenge to data-driven decision-making? And it did come down to too many data silos. So I think it's a challenge for everybody, regardless of whether you're a startup or an enterprise, and something that I think Fivetran does a great job of helping to address.
All right, well, appreciate that call out there. Okay. I'm going to keep moving then. So lending itself to broken pipelines are the complex data stacks, obviously, that companies have currently deployed. So many organizations that we work with are limited in their ability to capitalize on data because they are supported by an architecture that is, frankly, just overly complex and also costly. While this particular example here in this particular slide is not intended to be entirely accurate, it is indicative of what many companies are actually dealing with, which is really a complex set of data technologies that are kind of stitched together to deliver data from raw source to their intended destination. And across this overall spectrum, right, we're looking at integration, storage, transformation, and delivery steps. And then multiple delivery tools have been deployed along with each connection point as a result of this kind of web of technologies that's put together, it's a possible point of failure. So, and then ironically, the data stack that was designed to help gain access to data and provide access to that data often creates additional processes that a data consumer must follow in order to request a new report or a new data set. This slow process often creates bottlenecks that further then delay access to data that is required, obviously, for timely decision making. And so thus some of the challenges then and negative consequences that companies are dealing with from a legacy data stack include reduced data team impact, right? Teams are unable to keep up with the high volume of those requests. They're spending way too much time fixing and maintaining broken pipelines. Extended time to insight. There's difficulty gaining access to that new data based on complex processes. There's also limited capacity then to focus on new data models. Data is obviously outdated. This data becomes stale and unusable, and this then leads to eroded data trust by those data consumers, right? They no longer trust that data. And then lastly, just unreliable data, right? There's an inability to reliably get data into the warehouse to help support analytics and ops use cases, and a limited ability then to support new integrations and new transformations, the pieces that can really drive value, for some of that data. So another question then for the audience here, again, and please, jump into the Q&A or the chat function there. So are these the business challenges that you and your company are running into? And if not, are there others maybe that you are seeing? And I guess while the audience chimes in, Kelly, a question for you, which of these data challenges, resonates most with you and the customers that you're dealing with?
Yeah, it's, I think, all of them, if that's an answer. The volume of data products and requests for data products is just continuing to increase, to your original point there. And it is just, it's incredible how do you keep up with that? I think the more complex the architecture is, the more difficult it is to keep up because you're constantly dealing with infrastructure issues, effort, how do I keep this thing up and running versus focusing on delivering those data products. So I think the simpler you can do it, there's great beauty in that. I would keep it simpler rather than creating these complex architectures and trying to move away from some of that legacy side as well. Last thing I'll mention, one of our clients recently talked about moving to a modern data stack, said that they had increased their ability, their acceleration, their velocity by 50% on net new data products delivering to their consumers. So I think that's a nice testimony to keeping it simple.
Yeah, great call out there. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about some of those business outcomes here coming up. And a great segue into the modern data stack. So in an effort then to simplify this data stack, we see many organizations moving to this notion that Kelly and I have mentioned and we'll be talking about here, which is this modern data stack. This begins really with a focus on descriptive analytics and BI. And so then some of the capabilities and components that are included, are support for a variety of data sources here on the left, an automated data integration or ELT type approach in order to integrate data from those sources into a cloud destination. I mentioned a cloud destination, so cloud-based kind of infrastructure there. In warehouse transformations, taking advantage of separated compute and storage, as well as the scalability, right, of a cloud infrastructure to perform some of those transformations. And then all of this really forms a foundation for AI and ML initiatives, which you can kind of see there on the bottom, and some tool sets that help kind of support that. So some of the benefits then to taking this type of approach: higher performance and availability, reduce complexity, as you can probably see just within the diagram here, and less tool sets. Ultimately, a reduction in cost and then a reduction in the duplication of efforts. So here then, as a result of this shift, here are some of the business outcomes that enterprise companies can potentially see from, deploying this type of architecture. And Kelly mentioned it before, but, centralizing business data, eliminating some of those data silos across an organization, the ability to scale easily based on that cloud infrastructure, improving data insights, as well as not only just insight, but the time to insight as a result of that cloud infrastructure and the scalability and the speed that the cloud actually provides. And then lastly, kind of improving data integrity and reliability based on automated and resilient data pipelines that really help to minimize then some of the data team requirements and automate some of those data pipeline efforts. So Kelly, a question for you here again, do these outcomes correlate to some of the use cases then that you were also seeing with your clients?
Yeah, Jesse, we talked about it before, but to me, all of these speak towards how do I get, if I'm a data consumer, I want usable, trusted data, and you can put all the adjectives around that, but that's what I really want, and it's much easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with a lot of different data types, data sources, all this different variety of data that we're wanting to make decisions off of. But I think that a modern data stack approach gets us way closer to that than any time in past history. I've been doing this for 30 years that I've been able to see. And certainly, like you said, a lot faster than what we've been able to do before.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree. All right, then. So moving into then the Fivetran approach. So I want to overlay then our approach to the modern data stack as well as highlight some of the components then of the Fivetran platform. So then similar to the reference architecture on one of our previous slides, I've listed out all the various kind of data source types on the left here that we support, including databases, SaaS-based applications, event collectors, logs, third-party APIs, as well as different file types. So Fivetran then provides a broad array of fully managed data source connectors that support this automated data integration effort, right? Integration with the source, with these data sources on the left, and then pushing those and replicating and syncing data into all major cloud destinations, including data warehouses as well as data lake environments. As part of this integration process, then Fivetran automatically creates normalized schemas for each of those different data sources within the target environment, which can then be used for in-warehouse transformations that are also powered by Fivetran, again, taking advantage of the power of the cloud and the cloud data warehouse. Once that data has been modeled within the cloud, it can then be leveraged for a variety of downstream use cases, including BI and analytics use cases, operational use cases done with a partner census there on kind of the top right, as well as supporting then incremental ML and AI needs from the organization. So a little bit more about Fivetran then specifically. As I mentioned, we are an automated, fully managed data integration platform. We provide and integrate with over 150 data sources to bring data into that target destination in a standardized format. Changes in source data are automatically updated within that target destination. Data is reliable based on our highly available architecture with 99.9% uptime. And we're cloud native, providing ability to easily scale in order to meet your specific needs. So then what makes Fivetran different from some of the other providers that are out there? Some of these key differentiators include automatic data updates, including the ability to accurately and to automatically update relevant rows within that target destination. We also support automatic schema migration, which provides the ability to automatically then update new fields and tables that are added to a data source, most commonly in databases or applications with custom fields like Salesforce, and then move these fields, get these automatically added within the target destination. We also support automatic recovery from failure, which is a idempotent architecture. So in the case of sync interruption or an API outage, for example, or a database connection issue, we save that last successful sync and then actually start from there again to guarantee data integrity and making sure that data is not lost as part of that data integration effort. We support a micro-batched architecture where we optimize API calls and queries then used to extract data to lower the overall load on a source system during some of the historical syncs and ongoing syncs. And then finally, we also support extensible cloud functions where after you write an API call to a more customized data source, Fivetran handles figuring out then where to place that data within the destination and to re-trigger any calls moving forward. So then a couple final slides for me. As a result of all of this, when we look at the overall value that we're providing to our customers, there are a couple different buckets. The first is helping our customers then generate more timely insights, right? And so, for example, here's a couple customer examples. Ritual here on the left, they saw a 75% reduction in query times, accelerating their decision making. Oldcastle Infrastructure, they saw their financial reports that at one point actually took 10 days to create. They're actually now almost real time. And then that data flows into Tableau related dashboards. And then the second bucket is this notion of improving the impact of data teams. So for example, then Autodesk, they saw a reduction in pipeline maintenance from 3 to 5% of data analyst time. And then another customer of ours, Helios, they saw a 4x increase in the time spent on revenue generating activities, right? So significant ROI as a result of deploying Fivetran for some end use cases. And then my last slide here, before I hand it over to Kelly. As a company, Fivetran now has over 530 employees. We have offices in about 10 countries around the world. The 6 there on the bottom, those are the main ones, really based out of Oakland and Denver here in North America. We sync over 2 trillion rows of data each month. And as you can see here, some of the awards as well that we have received recently. And then we also have strong support, data delivery guarantee, strong data uptime, and a 14-day free trial to help you get started with anything. So that is my segment here. Actually, I don't know if there's any questions here. I don't know, Kelly, if you've seen any questions in the chat functionality.
Yeah, apologies. I know a lot of folks are having some issues with audio. Looks like Chris provided a Google stream on Google Meet for anybody that's having that issue. No questions yet that I've seen come up so far, Jesse.
All right, sounds good. Well, if any questions do come up, let me know. Happy to take them as we move forward, or you can also join me.
Here's one. Tommy's got one. This is a good one. How does Fivetran compare with Matillion?
How does Fivetran compare with Matillion? Yes. So if you think about the overall ELT process, right, Fivetran is very focused, and our core competency is really around the extract and load capabilities. And in doing so, we've created automated, fully managed data connectors, right, that, again, we manage, we understand the data sources, we put together and help to migrate any sort of schemas, moving that data automatically into a cloud data warehouse type destination or a data lake type destination. Matillion is really focused on the transformation layer, right? And so they have the ability then, it's not necessarily automated at that point, it's actually, looking at more customizable transformation type capabilities in order to, create those custom data models and push that into, whatever the tool sets might be to help support the end use cases, right, around analytics or operational type capabilities. So different focal points. I think, on the transformation front, obviously Fivetran, we do have our own transformation related capabilities, and those are driven by DBT. DBT also just a little bit more, customizable and helps then with some of the custom modeling that takes place. But that's how I would see definitely some differences there.
Yeah, a couple more that have come up. Amit was asking, can you give us a benchmark on typical savings you see on using Fivetran connectors versus, say, building a homegrown solution?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have a typical benchmark around savings. I think we did indicate some of the challenges that our organizations are seeing around broken pipelines, how frequently those pipelines break, how as a result then that actually impacts business performance, the ability to make decisions relative to revenue generating or even cost cutting. So there's a lot there as a result of, trying to maintain and fix some of the broken pipelines. I think with the automated approach that we provide, you alleviate a lot of that, right? And so I think, rapidly then moving data into your data warehouse, improving decision-making, tough to kind of quantify, but, definitely significant value that we can add.
Yeah, I like to say that, share a cup of coffee with us for an hour and we'll pick out a, reasonable source system, leveraging Fivetran. We'll have data flowing into a cloud data warehouse like Snowflake and, displaying some, a report, for instance, on Tableau over a cup of coffee. So it can be done quick, not saying that's going to solve every problem for you, but certainly we have clients that are, have had a pretty massive scripting inventory that they built for their pipelining and everything that have kind of thrown up their hands and go, this is too much to manage and maintain. Going to Fivetran, and then new customers as well that just know that, hey, within a few days, I'll be up and running at most with Fivetran. Why try to build that on my own when I can have a fully automated, fully managed experience?
Yeah, that's great.
Let me see here. This is an interesting one. Get your take on this, Jesse. Arindam is asking, where do you see yourself in the IoT space?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think, we are an enabler for a modern data stack, right? And so if an organization is looking to process data from an IoT perspective, we can be an enabler, right? So, looking at your IoT nodes, integrating with those, moving that data into a cloud data warehouse or a data lake environment, whatever you need in order to process and better, generate some analytics. I recognize with IoT, it's typically real-time data. We can actually do data syncs, down to 1 minute data syncs, right? We don't necessarily, we're not a streaming provider. We do have some integrations and can support Kafka, but we don't, natively kind of support streaming type environments, but can definitely, have high frequency syncs in order to make sure that data is processed and you have real time, data from your IoT nodes.
Sounds good. Why don't we switch sides here? I'll let you take a look at there's still a few more questions streaming in. If you can stop sharing, Jesse, then I'll share my screen and give a Hashmap perspective on this.
That's perfect.
Let's see here. Give me a moment. All right, Jesse, give me a thumbs up or a quick affirmative. That is showing up okay for you.
I gotcha.
All right, so everybody keep those questions coming in. There were some other good ones in there, Jesse. We're going to try to address those, and I'll follow off of Jesse's company slide. I'll hit the two company slides back to back here. I'll do it first. So a lot of people ask, well, how does Hashmap fit in? So we are a consulting services company, systems integration firm. We don't sell any products. We don't even sell Fivetran for that matter. We help you put these things together. Fivetran generally is one component of an overall modern data stack that's going to require data acquisition, data consumption, data persistence, storage, compute, automation. We're a firm that helps you put all those things together. Strategy, assessment, the actual, maybe you have a migration you want to do. Maybe you have a net new data product or analytics application that you want built out. We've done a lot of these over the years and have really work across industries right now. So we're not specific to any one industry. A lot of partnerships with the key technology firms, and we're really, really passionate about contributing to the community, collaborating, and ultimately being a bit of a mentor and a coach to you along the way. So that's a little bit about Hashmap. On to some of the questions that we are asked. And I'm going to let you guys read through these, and I want you to think about, is one of these questions or another question top of mind for you in 2021? I like to talk about scenarios. A scenario that we get asked about a lot is, I've got 3 different facilities, let's say manufacturing facilities, and each of these facilities is running Oracle e-business suite. I saw a question in the chat a minute ago about Oracle Finance and how could Oracle Finance maybe be integrated together with a cloud data platform, Oracle Finance data be integrated together with a cloud data platform and not have to necessarily use the Oracle tools and everything. Great example. So Oracle EBS, let's say it's on-prem though in this case. I want to connect that up. I've got 3 separate instances, and I want to start doing more consolidated KPIs and analytics in the cloud. How do I do that? How do I get from here to there? And how do I start adding other data sets in? How do I automate that process? That's the type of scenario that we get a lot of. Also, hey, I'm a I'm doing digital marketing right now. I would like to bring in a lot of different data sets, understand where I'm getting more value out of Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, those types of things. Every marketing company in the world is doing that right now because you want to make each of those dollars you're spending most valuable. So help me do that. Help me connect those up, create those fully automated pipelines, persist that into a data platform, cloud data platform that allows me to make more data-driven decisions around where I want to put that next paid social or paid ad dollar going forward. So again, throw it out. What's that one question for you that is top of mind going into 2021? And Jesse, I'll throw it over to you as well. What do you keep hearing repeated by organizations that everybody seems to be looking to the answer or looking for an answer for today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, as a vendor, we hear a lot of different things, from customers as well as prospects. I mean, I think, one of the things that comes to mind is, why automated data integration, versus kind of building out our own data pipelines, right? So as you mentioned, there's a number of, use cases, problems that an organization is trying to solve. Organizations might have a cloud migration strategy, leveraging, moving data into a cloud data warehouse. But why do they want to, leverage a tool or automated data integration process like Fivetran versus, again, building it out and creating data pipelines themselves? And I think we kind of talked about some of that previously.
Yep. No, perfect. So hopefully a few folks are firing in their top questions. All right. I love to talk about this because when we get asked, we get asked to do a lot of things. Hey, Hashmap, go help us do this. But we also get asked, how do we think? Why are we going down a particular path? Why are we recommending certain options? And to me, this is one of those behind the scenes kind of things that you get an idea of what it would be like working with Hashmap. We value, I would say, these 7 design principles for a modern data stack. We think it's really important. I believe Fivetran hits all of these in multiple ways usually when you start digging into it. So simplicity over architecting. I could spend months, years trying to figure out an exact perfect solution fit for 180 use cases. I'm never even going to get to 178 of those, right? So let's go knock out some of the use cases that are highest value and lowest risk and make sure we're taking care of that. Let's deliver something. Speed to impact, speed to value equals relevancy for all of us. It's for us as a systems integration partner, for Fivetran as a technology partner, and for you guys internally that are delivering data to your internal consumers or external consumers. You got to have that simple approach to achieve that speed equation. And ultimately, you don't want to have to put this stuff together with a bunch of baling wire and duct tape and Gorilla Glue, for instance. You want to have a sustainable, repeatable, reliable process that you really don't have to think about. It's almost lights out in the background running once you get it set up and configured. And all of that stuff drives into something, again, we get asked about a lot. How do I get to self-service data delivery? Again, an easier thing for me to say here, let's do self-service data, than actually executing in practice. And it kind of goes back to some of the things Jesse and I were talking about earlier around data quality and data availability, data accessibility, trusted data. So again, when you start digging into what Fivetran can provide, you're going to be able to achieve much, much closer that sometimes holy grail of self-serve data. Security, scale, savings, all of these things go into it. I won't spend too much more time. I do want to ask a question, though, to the audience again. I love to get these answers because it's always different. And usually people, well, I'll take all 7, or, hey, here's one you forgot about, Kelly. If you could pick one of these aspects of a modern data stack, which one would you choose and why? And then to Jesse, which one stands out to you the most? Jesse, as you're talking to Fivetran customers and prospects out there, which one do you feel like that they really gravitate towards?
Yeah, I mean, all these are obviously very important as you have articulated. I think the one that stands out for me, however, and it goes back to some of the slides that I had earlier of, here is a current enterprise data architecture and infrastructure, right? And there's lots of different lines and pieces, and so it's overly complex. And so I think what a lot of organizations are looking for is a way in which to better simplify that, right? And then as a result of simplifying, right, your data architecture, you have the ability to better move data, right, from your source systems into a data warehouse. You have the ability then to gain access, and actually plays into the speed piece, right, of gaining quicker access to some of that data and do some quicker analytics to help drive decision making.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Hopefully a few answers are flooding. This is an easy one. Doesn't take a lot of thought. Usually any of those apply. So let us know what you're thinking there. We'd be very, very interested. So Jesse's definitely going to outdo me on architecture slides here. I've only got one, and this is more conceptual than anything else. We're going to keep it relatively simple. But when we think of a modern data stack and what's involved in getting this done, again, I talked about it earlier. Fivetran is one piece of that usually that our clients are looking for help with. There's another 6 dimensions that I want to just talk about briefly and help you think through. So we'll go left to right. So data acquisition, again, fully managed, fully automated, set it and forget it. Multiple types of data, multiple sources of data, on-prem, cloud, API-based, you name it. Take a look. I would encourage you, just go out to the Fivetran site, go to the connectors and type in something, and you're likely to find it. What's really cool, if there's not a connector out there, there are a number of ways to, I'll call it custom configure a connector, or even maybe have a full custom connector that works very, very much like the out-of-the-box connector. So check that out. A great way to acquire data, extract, and load. Next, that's not all you have to do. Next, you gotta have a platform out there. We see a lot of Snowflake. We've done a lot of Snowflake implementations. There's other platforms out there that are specific to one of the clouds. But I'm going to have a way to do my processing on this data. I'm going to have a way to store this. To me, and we go back to call it the traditional big data days when the whole thing was, well, I can use cheap, inexpensive hardware. Well, today the cloud gives us that. I've got $20 to $25 a terabyte per month. Pretty dirt cheap. I mean, I can put a lot out there and not spend a lot of money. So data storage and the cost factor. What you want to do, though, is make sure on the compute side that you're balancing the SLAs that you're trying to drive across your various workloads with that cost factor that you're looking to ensure that you stay within. And sometimes, they have to shift depending on what you're looking to do. And then a favorite transformation tool, and Jesse talked about it a minute ago, dbt. So data's in, I've extracted, I've acquired, I've loaded. Now I probably want to do a little enrichment. Maybe I want to make it more analytics friendly or consumption friendly in a more curated fashion. So think about how I'm going to do transformation. One of the great ways to do that today is in the cloud data platform like Snowflake. So I can do that with a tool like dbt after acquiring data with Fivetran and use that elasticity and scalability that Snowflake gives me with a tool like dbt to not have to move data around and take advantage of the scalability, but also that scale down on cost when I'm not using those types of processes. Next, in this one, you see on the right side, 6 different maybe data consumption workloads. Think everything from traditional BI and analytics to net new data applications. We see data scientists wanting to have a much richer, curated view of their data, so they're not spending so much time doing data engineering and wrangling data and everything. Data sharing, et cetera. One of the interesting areas right now that we're starting to see some demand on with these cloud data platforms is, let's say I've got my customer record, all my customer data combined up from multiple sources in Snowflake. I brought that in via Fivetran in a number of ways from a number of sources. I feel like that's my golden record for Customer 360. Now I want to activate that data, and I want to use that to maybe push something out to my Salesforce instance or my ServiceNow instance or my HubSpot instance so that I can act more in the moment from a data application and activation perspective. So I'd say if you're not thinking along those lines, start. It's a really interesting area that can drive even more value out of your modern data stack. And then lastly, it is wonderful to have choice. I think more than anything, the cloud has offered us tremendous amounts of choice across the three major public clouds, and then obviously the ecosystem of technologies that's in and around that. I think you also have a responsibility to, again, going back to that sustainability, reliability, repeatability, focus in on some of the automation side of things. How can I ensure that as I'm developing these new data products that I'm not getting myself in a position where they're going to be hard to maintain, hard to operate, hard to really move out across the organization and get tremendous value out of. So that's the 7 major dimensions we think about with a modern data stack. Let me move to the next slide here. A few more perspectives, and let me go ahead. I'm going to build these out for you. There's three things here, and what we did, tried to put some artifacts down at the bottom that you could take a look at. There's some links there that apply to each one. Just mention this, but traditionally we've had some pretty expensive and high latency methods of doing transformations, where maybe it's done in a traditional tool or something like that. A lot of data movement in and out of platforms, back and forth. Start thinking about moving that transformation into your cloud data platform. In order to do that, you really got to understand what each of these cloud data platforms offers, and how do they do caching? How do they manage your, how do they manage the uptime? How do they manage spin up, spin down, scalability, elasticity, those types of things? So check that out. The green and the orange, the ELT and the knowing that cloud data platform really go hand in hand. And then you go sometimes, well, I just kind of throw up my hands. There's so many options out there. What do I do? How do I make a decision? I'm a huge fan of going ahead and making a decision, and we can adjust later on, but we can help you with some of that, what we call option fatigue. A couple of ways, kind of a fun little recommender tool that's out there if you want to check that out at hashmapinc.com/recommender. But we also offer a workshop. If you go to hashmapinc.com/workshops or go directly to that URL, we offer a 2-hour data integration workshop to help you think through things. We've bucketized the data integration and engineering market into 6 different categories, and we try to help you apply that to the particular use cases that you have. So definitely check those out. That's some key things I think that we keep in mind as we're continuing down this path of a modern data stack. Lastly, I would like to talk about a couple of recent examples, and I've alluded to these a couple of times, and I'm not going to go through all, I think, in the sake of time, and I'm betting there's probably a good amount of questions out there. Had a great situation last year where a client came to us and they said, "Hey Kelly, we need you to help us spend more money." And I kind of looked around and said, "Wait a minute, did I hear that right? You need me to help you spend more?" Yeah, we're doing really well with paid social and paid advertising, and we have an ability to go grab additional dollars, additional budget for that. But our data's not in a place where we can really make decisions about how to effectively deploy that new budget and spend it most effectively. What social platform should we be doing that on? So that was a situation where Fivetran came to the rescue, hooked up to a variety of data sources, everything from the existing agency that the organization was using to social media to CRM, and made it really, really quick and easy to get that data flowing in a way that could be quickly curated and enriched, and decisions made on it in both Snowflake and then using Tableau as kind of the end tool on that. Have a lot of examples along those lines. Jesse talked about some as well, and we'd be definitely very interested in any examples that you have coming up this year where you go, hey, I need help in this area. Our customers, I could tell you all these great things, but our customers tend to, I think, say it best. And I get asked a lot, how does Hashmap stand out as a consulting services firm versus some of the other guys that are out there? And to me, these are the things, you want to have confidence that you can get from point A to point B in a data project, and that's a big one. You want it planned and orchestrated properly. You want that speed. Not having a skin in the game in terms of selling a particular product, I think is really important. That enables us to focus on your customer success as a client. And then we like to handhold along the way and not just do things, but really show you how we do them. So that mentoring and coaching is really, really important to us. All right, I will end things up with this slide. And these are just kind of final tips. These are things we've already talked about. Hopefully one or two things has stood out to you as we've gone along, then we'll get to questions. But keep the 7 S's in mind as you're going along. Again, maybe not all of those design principles apply to each one of you, but hopefully 1 or 2 or 3 do, and they will help you along the way not make mistakes. I mean, we've made plenty of them along Hashmap along the way. We've made plenty of mistakes, but we've learned from them, and I think now we're able to communicate those after the last 10 years of sometimes doing things a really hard way. That they're simpler, faster, better, more sustainable. Number 2, I would say always work backwards from that business outcome. What's the, hopefully with the TCO ROI around it as well. Work backwards from that outcome and ensure that, we're not just doing technology for technology's sake. Number 3, I'll tell you, honestly, it doesn't matter if it's Snowflake, Fivetran, DBT, you name your technology tool. There just isn't a super tool out there. I would say that most of our clients have a couple of things in the bag that they use, and the cloud gives us that opportunity to do some fit for purpose stuff when we need to. So you don't have to. Back in the day, we had to have this perfect design on some huge monolithic application architecture framework that we had to capitalize and depreciate over the next 3 to 5 years. We don't have to do that anymore. So you really have a lot of choice there, not to have to look for the super tool and delay your data projects. But if I can connect up Fivetran to Salesforce, start flowing data into Snowflake, for instance, and start making decisions in a better way with a consolidated data set, let me do that. Number 4, last one is really try to modernize where you can. We talked a little bit about moving your transformations into the cloud, maybe eliminating some of that tech debt along the way. Look for opportunities to do that. It'll simplify your data estate, and I think you can take a little bit of time to reimagine those 7 dimensions that I talked about, and you'll be better off in the long run. So that's it for me. Jesse, I don't know if you have any questions that have come through.
Do not have any questions. Actually, thank you to my Fivetran colleagues who have been responding to some of the questions that have come up. A little more, some pretty specific questions that they've been able to respond to. But maybe this would be a good time just to open it up to the audience again. If there are other questions that you all might have for Kelly or myself, feel free to enter those into the chat, and one of us will read it to each other. All right, I guess I'm not seeing anything come in here. Here's one. What is the advantage of DBT over Snowflake's inbuilt transformation features? So I am not intimately familiar with the Snowflake kind of approach, but I know DBT is obviously a in warehouse transformation tool. So I think again, cloud agnostic, not necessarily specific to Snowflake. You can leverage it other places. Also, it integrates really well, with your Git versioning, your software development life cycles, your CI/CD cycles to help support data ops related use cases. I'm going to assume that the Snowflake functionality is not quite as in depth as the DBT functionality. Kelly, I assume you've had some good experience with DBT, so welcome your thoughts too.
Yeah, I'd say DBT would allow you to keep that simplified. I'm assuming they're probably referencing maybe building out Snowflake stored procs or something like that. And I think just, keeping it simple. DBT also does a really interesting job of capturing the lineage along the way. Like to say if you have SQL skills, you spend a couple of weeks with DBT, you're going to be pretty proficient with it. If you spend another 2 to 3, 4 weeks, you're going to be doing some really cool stuff, and maybe even doing some of those integrations and more advanced automation like Jesse talked about with your DevOps tools. So I'd say definitely give it a shot. It's open source too, so there's no cost, no charge to using it. It is a very active community as well, and so we really encourage you to try that out.
Yeah, and I think also if you're looking to leverage Fivetran with DBT, we have pretty strong integrations there. We do have some customized packages that we help to create leveraging DBT, so you can leverage those custom packages to automate, some insights into specific, use cases, and then have a very robust roadmap moving forward around further integrations.
Yeah, Candace is putting some great links out there as well. Appreciate that, Candace, on the DBT packages that Fivetran, the DBT team have been putting out. So definitely check those out. Some great stuff happening in the community right now.
Great. Any other general questions from the group? If not, we could potentially go to the breakout rooms if we wanted to go that route.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. So thank you both for speaking, and thank you all for joining. We're technically done with our presentation portion. However, we will have some breakout rooms, so please feel free to join us. Basically, I will be sending us all to the next room. You will see a few black boxes, and they will say discussion with Fivetran, discussion with Hashmap, etc. So you can choose which breakout room you would like to go to. So please join us now, and thank you all for joining.
Thank you.